Hi guys, I'm here today to do a library book haul. So I don't do these very often. I should and would like to use my library a lot more than I do, and whenever I do use it I just love it. I find it such a lovely place to be. It makes me really happy to come home with a big stack of books that I've literally just chosen, and it just reminds me of being much younger when I used to go to the library every week and get a big stack of books out and then go the next week and take them back and get some more, and yeah, used to love it, and it always feels super nostalgic and makes me happy. So the reason I have all these books out of the library initially is that I decided I wanted to try and read some graphic novels this month, and I'm trying as much as possible to not buy graphic novels because I have a real hit and miss relationship with them. Sometimes I absolutely love them and sometimes I just wish I hadn't wasted my money on them. So I had a look on my library, on the catalogue, to see which ones that I was interested in they had, and they actually had quite a few of them. Some of them they didn't have and I will have to search for in other ways, but they had quite a few of them, and they did have a bit of a wait list. They haven't all come in yet, but one of them has come in, and that is My Brother's Husband by Gengoroh Tagame. This is volume 1 of a manga series. I'm not sure how long this is going to be. I know there's a volume 2 out, which I now need to reserve at my library because I enjoyed this one and definitely want to carry on. But yeah, I'm not sure how many volumes there will be, so if you know, write it down below. So yeah, this is a super popular manga. I've had loads of people talk about it, and if you don't know already, it is about a father and his daughter who live in Japan, and his brother has recently died and he lived in Canada, and his brother's Canadian husband comes over to visit them in Japan, and it follows on from there. And he had quite a broken relationship with his brother, so it's him sort of getting to know his brother again through his brother's husband. So there's that, and I'm really enjoying that. That was super cute. So whilst I was ordering the graphic novels through my catalogue, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to have a look at some other books that are either quite pricey or quite short, and so I just don't want to, you know, risk spending a lot of money on them. Also because we're moving house, so I'm trying not to buy books at the moment, and I thought it would give me that buzz of buying books without actually spending money. So one of the ones I had a look into is The Lost Art of Sinking by Naomi. This is a novella that I've heard Jean talk about recently. So I'd heard of Sealed by this author, which is also a novella, and I really like the sound of that one, but I hadn't heard of this one. And Jean has spoken about both of them, and I think she really enjoyed both, but I actually preferred the sound of this one. My library has both, but I've decided to give this one a go first. So this is about a young girl who decides to try and get herself to faint, and it becomes a bit of a fad in her school with all the girls. But when they all get bored of it and move on, she carries on and gets really obsessed with making herself faint, and I assume makes herself quite ill. So yeah, I'm very much intrigued by it and looking forward to seeing what her writing style's like, and if I enjoy it, picking up Sealed as well. So then I took a bit of a risk because there was a book I really wanted that's only been published in the US as far as I know. It's definitely not been published in the UK, and I really didn't think my library would have it, but I thought I'll just chance it and type it into the catalogue, and I did have it. And it's Long Live the Tribe of Fatherless Girls, a memoir by Madden. So this is a memoir in essays, and I heard Kendra talk about this on her channel, and also I heard her talk about it on the Reading Woman podcast with Autumn, and I believe they interviewed the author, and I listened to that and really enjoyed it. It says this is a redemptive debut memoir about coming of age and reckoning with desire as a queer biracial teenager amidst the fierce contradictions of Boca Raton, Florida, a place where she found cult-like privilege, shocking racial disparities, rampant white-collar crime, and powerfully destructive standards of beauty hiding in plain sight. I'm so excited. This sounds like the sort of memoir that could just be a favourite book of the year for me, and I've read the first couple of pages and it's beautifully written, so I'm really looking forward to diving into this. And I enjoy memoirs that are done in that sort of essay-like form where they tackle different themes in different chunks of the book, so I'm looking forward to this one. So what happened is when I got this out, I noticed they had this little sticker on the side, and lots of the books I reserve in my library tend to have this sticker on the side, and the sticker says 2nd Air Division Memorial, oh, I've said that wrong, 2nd Air Division Memorial 8th Air Force, I think, and I wasn't really sure what that meant, but whenever you open them, there's a little sticker that says it's been donated from somebody who was in the 2nd Air Division during World War II. I never knew what that meant, and I was like, okay. And it seemed to me that a lot of the American books had that on it. So I got this out, was really happy with it, didn't really think much more of it. And then I went in the library to try and find this book. This is Good Talk, A Memoir and Conversations by Mira Grant, because it's recently come out in the US. I'd heard amazing things about it. I thought it looked like the sort of graphic novel memoir I would love. If you don't know, my favourite graphic books are memoirs. I just think it really works as a form, and I personally really enjoy it. And I love the look of the art style of this. So what she's done is she's drawn little paper cutouts of herself and her family and friends, and then she's drawn these speech bubbles, and then she's put the paper cutouts on other images, real images, and taken photos, and that's what every single page is. There's pages like this where there's actual photographs, a page of them pictured on top of a map. So yeah, I just think it looks amazing. And this was inspired by the fact that her young son, during the recent presidential elections, so this is sort of like 2016, he asked her if Michael Jackson was black or white, and she really struggled to explain it to him. And when she said to him, well, he was black but he sort of became white, he then said, well, will we become white? And she said no, and he said, so did that mean Dad was once black because his father's white? And she was like, no, and it became a really difficult conversation to have. And this is a book of all those different conversations that she had with people around her to do with race during sort of 2015, 2016. So yeah, really looking forward to this. So I went in the library to look for it, and I couldn't find it in the area where I thought it said it was. So I went up to the librarian, and he was like, oh no, it's in the Memorial Library in the second Air Division. And I was like, oh, you know, I've heard of that, and loads of the books I always take out have a sticker that say that, but I don't really know what it means. And he was like, well, there's actually a whole separate section to the library. It's just beside the children's library downstairs. There's a door you can go through, and it's all books that are paid for by this charity. It turns out the second Air Division had a base in Norfolk during the World War, and so after it all happened, lots of their family put together money for there to be this this historical base in the Norfolk Library, and it is all American history. It used to be really military focused, he said, but it's since expanded, so there's loads of biography, there's also a little bit of fiction. But he said it closes at 5 o'clock, so I was like, okay. So I put this on a reserve so that I could just go collect it, and I went to go collect it on Friday, and I found the actual section of the library. It closes at 5 o'clock, like I said, so I couldn't go after work, but I had a half day, so I was like, everyone at work thought I was a super geek, that what I was excited about was using my half day to go to the library. So it's really odd. I feel like they're not proper pushing it, because it's behind the sort of middle grade section of the library, and it's beside the door to the young children's section of the library, so it's nowhere near the adult fiction and non-fiction. It's really easily missed. And the poor librarian looked like he'd never seen anyone go in there. It was just completely empty, and the whole time I was browsing no one else came in. I mean, good for me, because it means all the books I want will always be there, and I'm sure other people do what I do and reserve them and didn't even realise it was an actual section. But it's very exciting. So I walked in, and there was a couple of those twirly book things, and there was fiction on it, and I was like, oh okay, I thought this was all non-fiction. This caught my eye immediately because I've wanted it since it came out, and just haven't let myself buy it, and I don't really know why, but I think it's because I wanted a certain edition, which was quite pricey. And it is Gun Love by Jennifer Clement, and this ticks all my boxes. This is a young girl coming of age story. Have I mentioned that I like those before? So this is about a young girl called Pearl who grows up in Central Florida, and she grows up in a parking lot next to a trailer park with her mother. And it says that life on the edge of the trailer park is strange enough, but when Pastor Rex's Guns for God program brings Eli Redmond to town, Pearl's world is upended. She finds herself surrounded by guns, and the threat of violence is always looming. And I read the first couple of pages, and it is beautifully written. The first two sentences are, my mother was a cup of sugar. You could borrow her any time, which I think is a really beautiful way to start it. So yeah, I'm going to read this like this weekend because it's really hot here. This is set in Florida, like I said, so I feel like it could work, and I really love that cover. So there's that. And then I just went to town. I was so excited. So there was sections on military history. There was also sections on the history of Native and Indigenous people in the US. There were sections just on the criminal justice system, which I was unbelievably excited about and had to stop myself from taking all those books out. There was whole sections just on biography and memoir. There were sections on nature and travel, just everything. It was amazing, and I almost wish that there was a room for every country like that at a library, but maybe I'm being a bit spoiled. So, and lots of these books are only published in the US. I didn't know I could get hold of them, and to buy them like new here, to get them shipped, is super expensive, so I'd never do it. So yeah, this first one is actually published in the UK as well, and it's On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century by Timothy Snyder. I've had a couple of people talk about this. I think Sophie from Portland the Pages was one of them. These all have cat fluff on them. The library are going to hate me. And this is a really small book, it's only about 130 pages, all about tyranny, and it's like questions and sort of statements. So it says like defend institutions, beware the one-party state, and there's just a few pages on each of those topics. So I think this is just going to be like a little brief intro to tyranny. And then these three are ones, they were all on my list of books to pick up, but they were all really expensive to get in the UK. The first one is A False Report, A True Story of Rape in America by T. Christian Miller and Ken Armstrong. And this won the Pulitzer Prize, I think only last year. I think this is going to be quite harrowing, and I read the first few pages and already really liked the tone, so we'll have to see. So this is written by two journalists, and it's the true story of a teenager called Marie, who was charged with with lying about a rape. And what happened is she reported a rape, and then she retracted her statement, and then she said, no, I had told the truth originally, I was raped, and then she retracted her statement again. And her life is sort of ruined from that point on. And then I think a couple of years later, or several years later, a sexual assault is reported locally that seems to tie in with the rape she originally reported, and so there's a big investigation into that. So yeah, this one sounds like it's going to be obviously a bit harrowing, but I've heard really good things about it, and like I said, I liked the tone of the first couple of pages. This next one I think has a beautiful cover which drew me in, and it turned out I sort of saw the side and really liked the font and the colours, and then when I picked up off the shelf I realised that I've recently heard Charlotte from Tired Mama Tries to Read talk about this one. I'm pretty sure I've just seen her haul it. It's Tomorrow Will Be Different, Loss, Love and the Fight for Trans Equality by Sarah McBride. And I haven't heard of Sarah McBride. I'm pretty sure she's probably really well known in the US. She became the first transgender person to speak at a national political convention in 2016 at the age of 26. But this goes back to her struggle to come out to her family, and then she is the first, she's one of the nation's most prominent transgender activists, where she walks the halls of the White House advocating inclusive legislation and addressing the country in the midst of a heated presidential election. So this is her memoir, all about her telling people and her transgender experience, and then also about her political activism to do with that. Now the one thing I will say about this is I've read the first few pages of all of these, and the first few pages of this were very focused on the US in a way where it was like, I absolutely bloody love my country, and I find that a little bit tiresome from anyone from any country, just because I don't know, I just don't think any country, I mean, is perfect. But I'm assuming that isn't the whole context of this book. Like, I'm assuming that's maybe just the intro of how she did feel, and maybe throughout her experience she's recognised there's things about her country that aren't great. But the first couple of pages were a little bit like that. So yeah, let me know if you've read this. Let me know how you think, what you think the tone is, and if you think this is really you know, only an American person could enjoy it. I'm sure that's not the case, but I was just a bit wary when I read the first couple of pages. So there's that one. And then this last one I was so happy to see there, which sounds like an odd thing to say about this book, but I've wanted this book since it came out last year. I actually added it to my wish list the year before when I saw that it was coming out, and I've never let myself buy it because it's really, really expensive to buy here because it's only been published in the US. And that's American Prison, A Reporter's Undercover Journey into the Business of Punishment by Shane Bauer. So this is Shane Bauer was hired as an entry-level prison guard at a private prison in Winfield, Louisiana in 2014. He was already an award-winning investigative journalist, but the prison had no idea. He gave his real name, they just didn't look into him. And then this follows him in the prison, and this book gives a history of private prisons. So it says he looks into, it weaves a much deeper reckoning with his experiences, together with a thoroughly researched history of for-profit prisons in America from their origins in the decades before the Civil War, and follows them to the present day. I still find it absolutely insane that for-profit prisons exist, particularly in the US, like in a developed country. It's insane. Yeah, so I really want to know more about it, and I find the criminal justice system just fascinating, but particularly the idea that profit can be made from it is vile and abhorrent. So I really want to understand the mechanisms behind it, and how it just continues to carry on. So there is that. I'm going to be reading that one very soon, probably start that today, with Gun Love, and also maybe, yeah, I'll probably start quite a few of them soon. So those are the books I have up from the library. Let me know if you've read any of these, let me know your thoughts. Also feel free to recommend me other books like this, because I may be able to find them in that section of my library. Yeah, just let me know what you are reading at the moment, if you are enjoying the long weekend, if you live in the UK and get a bank holiday Monday off. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I may do, let me know if you'd like to see this. I mentioned recently about unhauling a lot of books, and I have since done that, and I was thinking about doing a video talking about the books I decided to keep, maybe some of the ones I was really considering getting rid of and why I decided to keep them, or maybe I could go through all the books I have decided to keep, like do a super quick video where I hold them all up. But let me know what your thoughts are if you'd like to hear more about that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.